going to sponsor 10 women or 40 women. She said more. So thank you very much to all of them.
Indeed, this is worth celebrating. Power FM listeners, it's exactly 10 o'clock. Let's go to the news by Nkosikona Malinga Mnisi.
This news broadcast is delivered by Mr. D, saluting all women who get things done.
Power News.
Thanks very much, ladies. Top stories at 10. President Ramaphosa to officiate National Women's Day commemoration in the Northern Cape. And government commends the implementation of the Energy Action Plan as the country marks 4 months without load shedding. Good morning, I'm Nkosikona Malinga Mnisi. Today marks 68 years since thousands of women from across South Africa boldly challenged the apartheid government in Pretoria. For nearly 7 decades, August 9th has symbolized the strength and determination of women. On this day, around 20,000 women protested against the past laws that enforced racial segregation. Lethabo Mashapa reflects on the events of that historic day.
You strike a woman, you strike a rock. A slogan from August 9th, 1956 that still resonates today, led by courageous women Lillian Ngoyi, Rahima Musa, Helen Joseph and Sophie de Bruyn. Thousands marched to the union buildings, defying laws requiring black South Africans to carry internal passports known as passbooks. Despite apartheid-era Prime Minister Johannes Strijdom's indifference, the women left 14,000 signed petitions at his office doors. Survivor Sophie de Bruyn remains inspired by the bravery of her fellow leaders.
They suffered persecution because of their commitment and their dedication to eradicate the scourge of the many laws that impact on the lives of our women and our people during that time. I can say that their characters were almost the same, hardworking, and had a passion, an extreme passion for justice and for women.
Meanwhile, President Cyril Ramaphosa will lead a Women's Day commemoration event in the Northern Cape today. I'm Lethabo Mashapa for Power News.
Now, President Cyril Ramaphosa will address that national commemoration of Women's Day under the theme Celebrating 30 Years of Freedom Towards Women's Development at the Dennis Nell Stadium in Pofadder, that's in the Northern Cape. The President will, ahead of leading the commemoration, tour a Services on Wheels exhibition of government services that will be provided to citizens attending the event, as well as a trade expo featuring small, medium and micro enterprises led by women entrepreneurs in that province. The women of Pofadder urging President Ramaphosa to address the socio-economic challenges they face in the province during his keynote address.
They must give the matriculants trainings that they can have the opportunity to go there and work, because they can come here where we are now. You see, we are a lot of young people who don't have work. When you don't work, you get in trouble, you go into taverns, get drunk, get pregnant easily, because there is nothing who can you look out for, you see.
We must empower more women. And it's very important for us to be empowered and to gain legal rights. They must give us more power in mining.
We shift our focus to this story now. As South Africa marks its 4th consecutive month without load shedding, the Minister in the Presidency has commended the implementation of the country's Energy Action Plan. During her address following the 7th Cabinet meeting, Khumbudzo Ntshavheni acknowledged that although load reduction continues to disrupt some areas, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Power utility Eskom has been implementing the Generation Recovery Plan to increase capacity while protecting infrastructure. Ntshavheni further says that the results indicate progress toward improving the quality of life for people and enhancing economic performance.
On electricity, the supply of consistent electricity is now a step closer to the steadfast implementation of the Energy Action Plan that was announced by the President in July 2022. The Energy Action Plan's consistent focus on planned maintenance and work to achieve energy security by bringing on board new generation capacity has contributed greatly to consistent power supply and no load shedding for over several months. Now we no longer count in days, we count in months. This is an important enabler for economic growth.
An immigration expert, Ashraf Esol, believes that the final investigation report on the allegations against Chidima Rechina's mother will bring closure to the controversy surrounding the former Miss South Africa's contestant's nationality, should I say. The investigation currently underway aims to determine Adechina's legal status in the country. On Wednesday, the Department of Home Affairs disclosed that Adechina's mother might have committed fraud and identity theft, further complicating the situation. Adechina's citizenship has come under scrutiny following reports that she's born to a Nigerian father and a mother with Mozambican roots. Esop says the conclusive findings of the investigation will be crucial in resolving the matter.
Having a prima facie case doesn't just entitle her to her citizenship. A principle in law is that a decision such as this one that is taken has to continue to be respected until set aside by a court of law. What is the nature of the prima facie evidence? It can only mean that they have, or to their knowledge, they detected something regarding the mother. But the facts don't change. The applicant was born in the Republic. At the time, her birth was registered to a South African citizen. So all that is intact. She is a citizen by birth until proven otherwise.
Let's recap the top story in Power News. The SAWA President Cyril Ramaphosa will officiate the National Women's Day commemoration in the Northern Cape.
Power News.
Celebrate Women's Month with us. Mr. D is thrilled to honor the amazing women who embody dedication and achievement. This month, it's all about paying tribute to all the women who get things done. We proudly salute you, support you, and admire you for your ability to get things done. Shop the Mr. D app and get amazing deals when you order this Women's Month. Mr. D. The D is for done.
On FM, online, and DSTV channel 889. This is Power 98.7.
This is Power 98.7. And now you're listening to Power Talk 9 a.m. to noon. Taking your calls on 0861 987 000.
Welcome back to our Power Talk listeners. We have, as normal, women are always giving something away. We coming up in the next hour is the Mr. D giveaway moment, where you stand a chance to win 1,000 Rand in Mr. D coupons redeemable on the Mr. D app. Check the giveaway on power987.co.za under 987 Women tab to participate. Before we actually kick off on the next conversation, I have a trigger warning. The following conversation I would like to highlight and put forward a disclaimer addresses topics related to gender-based violence and femicide, including distressing details about abuse, harassment, and discrimination. If any of these topics are particularly triggering or upsetting to you, our precious dear listener, please proceed with caution or consider taking a break if required. This is because your well-being is essential to us, and we will be sharing resources that are available to you should you need these.
Still in the driver's seat with Charmaine. We are still celebrating Women's Day. Oh, you can even feel in the studio that we've got such greatness. I will be introducing their next guest, amazing and remarkable woman. But guys, feel free to join the conversation by calling us on 086 198 7000 or sending a voice note to 083 303 7093, or you can engage us on social media platforms by tagging at Power987 and using the hashtags PowerTalk. Let's make this a memorable Women's Day.
Thank you so much, Ayanda. So, our next segment is on regaining powerhood through sisterhood. I am joined, listeners, by my former DJ who was here with me last year in the Power FM studio, Miss Irene Shanley, who is the former president of the International Women's Forum of South Africa, and today she serves as the International Women's Forum Global Board Member. Welcome, Miss Shanley. Welcome, my former DJ.
Happy to be back here again and great energy in the room. Those who are not here, you're missing out.
Exactly. And I'm so fascinated. As you walked in, you recognized everybody. Like, I was still dizzy from fear from the last session. I only recognized Neo as I walked in. You knew everybody as you came in.
And she's also recognizable. She's the lady in red.
Yes.
Maybe we should have played the song by Chris de Beck, Lady in Red.
Yes. She always looks so elegant. She always makes us step up the standard. Welcome, Ms. Shamni. We're also joined by a very dear friend of mine who serves with me on the IWFSA board, Miss Nikki Galactio. She's also the founder and director of Nikki Galactio Incorporation, a boutique law firm. And something that is very special, listeners, about this law firm, it's a boutique law firm that consists exclusively of some of the most powerful, dynamic women in the country. They lead with purpose, they lead with conscience. And Ms. Shanley always reminds me that Nikki wins all of her cases. And Nikki says, no, actually, I win 99.99999% of all of my cases. So welcome, ladies. We're delighted to have you in the studio with us this morning. So our conversation, I'm going to kick off with you, Ms. Shanley. Our conversation actually connects around the International Women's Forum of South Africa catalytic program. Maybe unpack that for us. What does that mean?
So just to start off with, thank you for having me in the studio this morning. I'm happy to be here. Firstly, the program of the International Women's Forum South Africa around the catalytic program relates to women. Today is Women's Day. It relates to women's gender equality, ensuring that we ensure that where women work, they earn the same as men, their male counterparts. So that's really gender equality as far as pay parity is concerned. The second aspect is ensuring that women occupy at least 50% of leadership positions, and that is starting from board level, executive level, general manager, senior manager level, because we all know that women make up more than 50% of our population, not just in South Africa, but across Africa and in the world. The third aspect of that relates to the economic empowerment of women. And one of the things we've been advocating for as an organization This is IWFSA under the leadership of its president, Madame Nolita Fakude, and its board, is to ensure that we advocate for procurement and private and public companies, that those procurement, at least 50% of those, go to women-owned businesses. So as part of that program, we've looked at legislation, how we change legislation, what do we do around that, and we've been fairly successful influencing the way legislation is changed. And as part of that whole program, I think what we are looking for now as well with IWFSA, with its sister organizations like SAWID, ORCA, the African Women Chartered Accountants, APSIP, and many organizations, as well as the companies who are supporting them, is to say that we have to ensure that we get gender-specific legislation in our country. But that's another topic on its own. The key discussion for today is the issues what IWFSA has also been involved with is a setting up, as part of the economic empowerment aspect, set up the gender-based violence and response funds, and that was a few years ago and has been managed run by the private sector group. It's got its own board, which is run by Faith Carnile and run by the CEO is Sazini Mojapelo. So they are trying to respond, because we say there's such an important role to respond urgently to this gender-based violence and femicide that's taking place in our country. And interestingly, we're number one.
That is alarming. That is alarming.
So just a quick case that I wanted just a quick statistic. So gender-based violence, the Response Fund, they're supporting about 150 community-based organizations across all 9 provinces. They have impacted positively at least 290,000 abused women and children over the past 18 months, and they, supporting them through these organizations.
That's amazing.
But the key is that what we are asking ourselves for is what the women, we are here, we are women, we are professional women, business women. We have many of the listeners of Power FM that's out there and saying, and these are women.
Yes.
They're occupying key positions. They're very powerful, etc. And yet, every day, some women are being abused physically or mentally by their partner. I mean, just recently, about 2.5 months ago, we had to bury, I'm not going to use one case here. One of the alumni, at an earlier conversation, you spoke to the alumni, the women, the hashtag 1000 women. We are developing, these are professional women, occupying key positions. So one of the sisters of our alumni, we had to go and bury her. Her name is Stella. We mustn't forget her name. Stella. 33 years old. 3 children. A teacher for grade 12 students, English teacher. And she was in love with somebody, a man, her boyfriend. This man beat her up. Now, Stella's family is a supportive family. They support her. They a middle class, upper class family, so they support her. But Stella was living with this boyfriend of hers, who one day decided, you know what, you have got some money there and I am going to kill you. And he kills Stella, brutally. Stella's got 3 children. He takes a body, goes and dumps a body into the river that's close by. He takes the children to school after doing this gruesome act. Takes her to school, the children to school, and then the family's asking, where is Stella? And Stella, he then knows she went somewhere and go with the family to look for her. But as the gruesomeness is not enough, killing her, he goes back to the river. He retrieves a body and he burns the body. He burns the body, throws it back. And then he goes back and with the family look for her, until eventually the family had to get private investigators, and they found that then he had to admit that where he dumped a body. I mean, it is just so gruesome, even as I am getting goosebumps, because I'm thinking how I had nightmares for weeks just listening to this and hearing this gruesome killing, this boyfriend killing this girlfriend of his, denying the children of a mother, denying the children at school of a very brilliant teacher. This is the stuff that IWFSA and many of its sister organizations, we are saying we have to stop this. We have to respond to this because, and I just want to say to the women out there, either you have family, you've got sisterhood. You mentioned the issue of sisterhood. Sisterhood, if you can't speak to your supporting family, speak to a friend. Once that man lifts up your hand, you have to get out of that relationship. And we are not going to judge you. If you are beaten, people won't judge you at all. There's the laws, and that's why we're trying to make sure that the laws are changed so that there's severe action against perpetrators like this. I had to, and the fact is that we as a society, why are we comfortable knowing this is happening around us? We should be outraged about this. And I mean, early on when Nikki and I was discussing this, I mean, Nikki, she's one of the best top lawyers, women lawyers in our country, and any man can come next to her. She is just there. And I was saying to her, you know what? Just share with us. I mean, Nikki's not an expert in GBV law, but she always say the law is there to protect us, to protect women, to protect children. And many times people don't know that. But the law is there, but the sisterhood is also there. Call a friend, because that sisterhood is the ones that's going to talk about it. And Nikki, I think you also were saying that maybe there's some areas where you thought you could share with us as well.
Thank you so much for that, Ms. Shanley. And actually the point you're making, Thabo from Mamelodi actually agrees with you, Ms. Shanley. Thabo from Mamelodi says that society has a duty towards alleviating GBV. So exactly as you're saying, he actually agrees with you. Before we actually go into Nikki, we have a caller that we're going to tap into. And Nikki, when you speak, we'll also share just some of the hashtags from gender-based violence that Ms. Shanley alluded to. Faith Kanile has shared with us some of the resources that we can tap into. Caller, you are on the line. We have Thabo from Mamelodi. Thabo?
Morning, guys. I think we as a society, we have a duty and a responsibility to make sure that, the generation that is coming is a generation that will be responsible enough if we as the parents, the leaders, and the society at large, act responsibly. Because if you can look at it, children mimics what adults do. And then if they mimic the wrongdoings of others, especially the parents, because they look at them as their role models. They think whatever parents are doing is right, and then they will grab that thing and run with it. The issue of GBV is very, very, very serious issue, because we cannot only deal with the crime itself. We have to get to the root cause of it. Because you can't go into a doctor and say, I'm sick. He has to diagnose what's the problem, to give you the proper medication to deal with your sickness. So if we're going to deal with the cases as they come and say, we have a case of GBV, this and this and then that, because each case differs from one another. So I think that the government should be on board, the parents should be on board, so to make sure that we grow a society that will be responsible, that not only going to coexist, because we as the people, we differ from ourselves. People's abilities differ. I think the man that killed that lady is that he feels as if the woman was making more money than her. It's not about that. It has to go with abilities. Sometimes there are women that are more smarter than men. There are women that are more powerful than women, than men. There are men who are more powerful than other men. So I think to me that the equality part, we have to come to a point that no, look at each other's abilities. And sometimes the abilities, if they overweigh of you as the man, it's not that you are being belittled, but there are some other things that you can do that a woman can do. So I think this thing we need to be on board and then to make sure that the generation that is coming, because of my mother was a very spiritual person. Some years ago, she said something that is very interesting, that we are living in an era where we'll see parents bury their own child, because of the generation that we have now doesn't believe in God, does not respect parents, does not respect teachers.
Thank you very much for those sentiments, Thabo. Nikki?
Thank you, Charmaine. I think what Thabo said is absolutely correct. One of the issues, I think, as well, is that society is not fully appraised of the reforms that are being made to the law. It's not sufficient, absolutely, but there have been reforms. I was honoured to represent the IWFSA at the Portfolio Committee in Parliament, where changes were made to the Domestic Violence Act, the Sexual Offences Act, and it's important for people to become acquainted with what actually constitutes a crime, particularly in domestic violence and under GBV. So we've added in crimes such as coercive behavior, controlling behavior, economic abuse. When people think GBV, they just think physical abuse, but there's emotional abuse, there's psychological abuse, and there's also been strides that have been made in case law, where the definitions of rape have come under the spotlight. Quite recently, in a Supreme Court decision, where it was determined that what is consent, and people are under the view that if you give consent to a sexual act, it means anything. But in actual fact, it's not. And the Supreme Court has handed down a very important judgment. Unfortunately, we don't have time to go into those details. And I just invite people to acquaint themselves with the laws that are out there to try and assist. And I think there's also a perception that women who are educated, who are economically have their, can sustain themselves, who have got strong families, that they either are not victims of GBV, or if they are, they feel absolutely embarrassed, shameful to admit it, particularly where they are, bosses in companies. It's very difficult for them to actually admit it. And I think you must reach out, as Miss Irene said, to the sisterhood, to your family, and get the help that you need.
Thank you very much, Nikki. Ayanda, I'm going to hand over to you to go to news headlines, and we'll circle back and give information to access to resources.
You are still listening to Power Talk. Let's go to the headlines by Nkosinkona Malinga Mnisi.
Thanks, Ayanda. Good morning. In news making headlines this hour, President Cyril Ramaphosa is scheduled to deliver the keynote address at the National Women's Day celebrations in Pofara in the Northern Cape today. The event will commemorate 68 years since 20,000 women from diverse backgrounds across South Africa marched to Pretoria in protest against past laws. Today's commemoration will be held under the theme celebrating 30 years of democracy towards women's development. Women of Pofara are urging President Ramaphosa to address the socio-economic challenges they face in the province during his keynote address.
They must give the matriculants trainings, that they can have the opportunity to go there and work, because they can come here where we are now. You see, we are a lot of young people who don't have work. When you don't work, you get in trouble, you go into taverns, get drunk, get pregnant easily, because there is nothing who can you look out for, you see.
We must empower more women. And it's very important for us to be empowered and to gain legal rights. They must give us more power in mining.
In other news, JMPD officers stationed at the site where EFF councillor Moshe Mphahlele was fatally shot have been suspended. Mphahlele was killed on Sunday during a reported confrontation between the officers and protesting community members at St. Alexandra, north of Johannesburg. It's understood that the protesters were attempting to invade unoccupied government shelters at the time of the incident. Here's Johannesburg Public Safety MMC Dr. Mgcini Chwako.
So all those individuals that are suspended, they will hand over their firearms to the IP for ballistics, because we need to check where did the shots come from, because the statement that has been put in by the community has been firing shots at the police. And then the question we asked, but there are no casualties that has been seen on both on the private security and also on the JMPD.
And music lovers and fans gathered in large numbers to honor the memory of Bokang Muledi, known as Malum Vector, who tragically died in a motor accident in the Free State over a week ago. The 32-year-old award-winning artist was on his way to Lesotho to shoot a music video when he and two other occupants lost their lives in that accident. I'll have more on these and other Power News at 11 o'clock.
From the 7th to the 9th of August, the 2024 987 Woman Takeover, celebrating 10 years of inspiring and groundbreaking moments on Power 98.7. Now we're talking. Hashtag 987Woman.
Welcome back to our Power Talk listeners. So, Miss Irene Charmaine, I'm going to hand over to you just so that you can close us out on this very important, crucial conversation.
No, thank you so much, Charmaine. I think just for any woman out there who's on their own, who feel alone, who needs to reach out to them, to somebody, and you can't reach out to your family or to a sister or to a friend or to a neighbor, reach out to the GBVF Response Fund 1. You can do it at info@gbvfresponsefund1, one word, .org, or www.gbvfresponsefund1, like the letter 1, .org. You could also access them on Instagram, GBVF Response Fund 1. Please, you are not alone. We don't want to go and bury you. Please, we want to save those who are being abused out there. Reach out for help and contact the GBVF Response Fund, and they will put you in touch with the community-based organizations that's across all 9 provinces that they are supporting. I hope you are not alone. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you so much, Nikki Galatzio. Thank you so much, Miss Irene Charmaine, our former IWFSA president, and our former African Women's Chartered Accountants, Women of Substance as well, and my former DJ. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You missed one. She's now the board member of the International Women's Global
member. Thank you so much.
Taking South Africa globally.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we can do this. It's been a long time coming. This deserves to grow. It's a great business. If they don't like it, someone else will. And fund me so I can expand. Maybe I can offer them shares. I need to retain equity for staff. It's going to be good for recruitment. Yeah.
Possible begins with that one great idea. When Telkom enables entrepreneurs to make their ingenuity a reality, we grow local economies. Telkom, possible begins here.
A Mitsu for her will have your drive ignited. Experience the thrill of the road with our cutting-edge technology, sleek design, and unmatched performance. From the city streets to the open highways, Mitsubishi brings you a driving experience like no other. Embrace the adventure of the Pajero Sport for just 9,999 per month with a whopping 50,000 Rand deal assistance. Visit www.mitsubishi-motors.co.za to learn more. Mitsubishi Motors. Drive your ambition.
The The 2024 987 Woman Takeover from the 7th to the 9th of August. Celebrating 10 years of amazing and groundbreaking moments. This is who has joined the 2024 987 Woman Alumni lineup. Friday, 9 August, 6 to 9 a.m. Power Breakfast with Mabato Munso and Masiho Rashacha. Power Talk, 9 a.m. to midday with Ayanda Mafuleka. Power Lunch, midday to 3 p.m. with Ursula Pule. Power Drive, 3 to 6 p.m. with Dumisi Kukuno Chamayu and Sina Hinamvoko. Power Business, 6 to 8 p.m. with Matebe Mudise. The 2024 987 Woman Takeover from the 7th to the 9th of August. Visit power987.co.za for more. Hashtag 987woman. From the 7th to the 9th of August, the 2024 987 Woman Takeover, celebrating 10 years of inspiring and groundbreaking moments on Power 98.7. Now we're talking. Hashtag 987woman.
Welcome back. You are still with us. Myself, Ayanda Mafuleka, with Charmaine, my home girl. We are just going to get into another interesting topic. But before we get to that, let me urge you, Power FM listeners, that you can still join us on other frequencies. We are also on DSTV Audio, channel 889. If you want to tune from East Rand, Egoruleni, you can tune in on 107.2, from Vereeniging, 104.4. If you are from the South and West Rand, go Krugersdorp, you can tune in from 103.4. If you are in Joburg or Pretoria, it's 98.7. Here on studio in person, we have, I'm joined by Prof. William Gumede, the founder of the Institute for Social Dialogue, and Masiaba Marageni, who's an alumni, by the way, of IWFSA Facet 2023 Women Legacy Program, who's the head of business development, as well as she's in an ESCO of APSIPS. She's the Secretary General of APSIPS and the Young Leaders Connect. Welcome. We are going to be getting into, the segment where we talk about the impact of corporate social responsibility in South Africa. Gone are the days when government was seen as the exclusive social change agent and the absolute macro problem solver. But now the companies really are gradually taking a larger role, actively participating in social and community projects under the concept CSR. So we just want to unpack this and understand, what does one have to do to recognize that the adoption of a CSR posture does not only result from the pressure of interest group and non-profit organizations that defend different social causes. So I know, Prof, you had written about this, about corporate social responsibility. Just to unpack it for us.
Yeah, good morning, and thank you for having me, and a blessed Women's Day to your listeners, and I hope they are treated special every day and not only today. Just coming back to corporate social responsibility, if you look historically in the countries since the Second World War, that has done very well from developing countries, from poverty to wealthy countries, whether it is South Korea, Taiwan, or Singapore. Now, the way they've done corporate social responsibility in those countries are much more wider than, for example, business is doing here in South Africa. I'll give you an example. I mean, some of the companies we think about, let's just take any company, a Samsung or a Mitsubishi and so on. These companies actually built universities, started giant sports clubs, build their homes, and so on. And now, as researchers, we're actually calling those companies in those societies, we actually call them almost like business welfare. So we normally talk about South Africa or some countries as a welfare state where a state look after people. But in those countries, business had a much more bigger responsibility to actually also look after the welfare, not only of their employees, but also the welfare of their communities and the welfare of the countries. So, and that is actually the standard as that we have to look to as South Africa. So we have to look at corporate social responsibilities, not just as limited activities, but a whole of company activities.
So, if you a caller, just for the in the interest or the sake of the caller or the listeners out there, how does CSR differ from the traditional philanthropic work that the corporate does? And really, if you're to zoom into the CSR, what are the benefits?
I mean, the sad part, if you look at it, many of our companies, sadly, they have a very limited view of CSR. So CSR is often let's sponsor a community, let's sponsor a sports club, those kind of piecemeal activities. Whereas CSR, we have to look at it much more bigger. CSR, for me, there are two dimensions to CSR. Firstly is how a company treats its own workers. Is there gender equality in management, at the board level, at the lower levels? What does a company do? Does the company look after all of its employees? If you're an employee, does the company look after you? When I say look after you, will the company build your house? Why do you have to go to government to build your house? Can the company do that? Do the company look after your children? And then there's another dimension, there's a third dimension in South Africa, is that many of our companies are very old. They predate the democratic era. They come from the apartheid era. Now, many of these companies were not good good corporate citizens during the apartheid era. So they, a part of CSR, what they need to do is they need to provide reparations, even for employees that are not with them anymore, or the families of employees. Remember many mining companies, for example. I mean, they treated workers almost like slave workers during the apartheid era, and so on. Black workers didn't get the benefits of pensions and all of those sort of housing benefits. Now, as part of CSR, what they need to do is to go back to the families and provide something for the children and so on. And that's what I would say is a bigger definition of CSR.
So I just want to bring in Masiabe, also coming from the space of assets management. Can you just share with us how you have experienced CSR? Also, just bring it into the context of social economical challenges in South Africa.
Good morning, Sis Ayanda, and good morning to all the listeners. And I just want to say Happy Women's Day to all the wonderful women. I am here because you are here. You've paved the way for me, Sis Charmaine, Sis Irene, all the lovely ladies that have been here and have really addressed us this morning. So, yeah, thank you for that. I mean, I maybe just to position. So, I mean, I particularly work for a company called Future Growth Asset Management, and it's been in South Africa in existence for almost 30 years now. And really, I mean, Prof, to really echo what Prof is saying here is that corporate social responsibility has to stem from a point of view of what makes this organization a great place to work. And what are the ethos and the values that the organization actually has that will attract individuals like you and I to actually work in those organizations. And I've been very privileged to be part of actually putting that strategy together and actually being attracted to an organization because of the very reason, right? You want to work for an organization that will make an impact for its own staff members. So, does the organization actually take care of women? In the asset management space, there's been a lot of research that's been done. I mean, quite recently, Eskom Pension Provident Fund did a research around why women leave the asset management industry. And it was particularly because of the reasons that women don't feel welcome in that space. You have to work long hours. There's a lot of male dominance. So, people don't want to see things from a female perspective. And it's about time that, women don't leave. We need to be able to have our voices in those areas and say, what are the things that are actually going to work for us, right? We want an environment where there's a creche, for example, where children can be able to go to the creche. I want to be able to go down the stairs and feed my baby the breast milk and be able to go up and do my work. Women have always been known to be very diverse in terms of the way that they work. So they should be allowed a space to be able to think. Women are very much incubators and they think broadly. So how do you create an environment where you allow women to actually thrive while doing what they actually love? So I think that's quite important. But I think I want to bring it back to the money aspect part of it, right? From an asset management perspective, there is something called the environmental, social, and governance factors that are now being impressed upon asset managers to actually be able to demonstrate as they're investing money. So I think the one message I want to leave is that people should feel empowered to ask their asset management company what actually elements of impact are they bringing into the conversation as they're actually going and investing in these companies. For example, are you going to invest in a company that is going to cause people to be sick? Are you going to invest in a company that is potentially not going to, build the very houses that Prof has alluded to in the areas where the people are actually comfortable, where they are living? So it is an imperative for each and every asset management company to be responsible in the way they invest. And by the way, research also shows that you can be responsible, but also you can actually create good returns by being responsible, because that's a sustainable way of investing. Thank you, Sis Ayanda.
Thanks, Masia. I mean, you have also brought in an element of gender, gender inequality. You talk about basic things that, I mean, it might look basic to the next person, but to a woman, that is critical. About a crèche, where do I live? My child to be able to tend to work. I mean, we know that about 40% of our households, they are headed by women. And I mean, we are in a country where we still we have major problems of economic and social inequality. And I think a lot could still be done, through CSR in interventions and financial resources. So to your Prof, what still could be, do you think that the CSR models in South Africa need some, change? Just take us through that. And how can we fast track, this change and see, and where we can even see the tangible intervention and the return on this SIR. Because as I was, looking at this, I thought for me, we are so good in donation, sponsoring this and that, but is it impactful? What impact can we derive, from this CSR? So just unpack to us what still needs to change in the current CSR models.
No, thank you for that. I think, I just wanted to one important fact that people don't often know, the public don't know, is that when we look after the Second World War, the countries that have developed out of poverty, and that's my focus of my own teaching, the one thing that changed, the fundamental catalyst is when women gets empowered. Is a fundamental catalyst. So all of the economies, whether it is, we talk about the East Asian economic miracles, they all started the moment when they introduced gender equality substantially in the economy. And even if you take it to other societies, the great welfare, democratic welfare societies of the Second World War, whether it is the Netherlands or whether it is Scandinavian countries, now the one catalyst, the moment they focus on women genuinely, absolutely genuinely, and break through patriarchy, that's when the economic growth comes. Even with China, and I know the research is not well known, but the Chinese economic growth story from the 1970s started when they brought gender equality in the economy and society much more stronger than before. So that's very, very important. And one of the reasons I would argue, I mean, I'm coming out with a book later in the year of a long history of Africa since the Second World War. And the most important thing why Africa has remained underdeveloped, and that's my argument, is that patriarchy has remained longer than any other societies, any other growth societies, and so on. And even in the countries in Africa, and sadly there's only 4 or 5 of them, there are not many of them, that's done well out of the 54 African countries, is those countries actually done more for women. That is an absolute determining factor. And so on. But by coming back onto the CSR, from a South African point of view, I think it's very limited. It's too limited. We really have to look at the model. And the model must include companies not just giving donations and think, okay, now we've ticked off our box. And so firstly, internally, what companies normally do, they just appoint a CSR unit or office, and that's it. But CSR must be part of the whole company, integrated into the company, not as a unit on the sidelines. That's the first thing. Secondly, we have to look at it differently, the responsibilities and how they treat the employees. From gender equality to bringing in young people into senior positions, training, looking after workers from building homes and so on. So we have to look at companies must almost be a bit like the state for their employees and for their customers also. The customers also don't treat customers as just a profit, making profits out of them, and so on. And I'll give you another context. For example, I mean, South African companies in the post-1994 period has made more profits comparatively than in any other economy, and so on. Now, our country's in a crisis, high unemployment and so on. But during this period, you have the financial sector, banks and so on, making super profits. So why can't they, as part of CSR, take a cut of that, a haircut from the profits, and actually put it into building infrastructure, for example, building homes, bringing in young people, and so on. Now that is being done in other countries, and it is accepted as the norm, but in our country it's not acceptable as the norm.
Wow. So, I derive comfort that at least we do have, the countries that you can model against, to fast track this. You spoke about the patriarchal, system that have been entrenched in our society for the longest. But we do have a caller, Stephen from Pretoria.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I just wanted to ask the corporate social responsibility in the country. How can it be if the company that is based in South Africa is owned by other country? Is there a way that could be possible for them to can actually take seriously the social responsibility, the corporate social responsibility within the country, like what a company that I know that it is owned by outsider, but it is based in South Africa?
Masiabi, what do you think?
Can you just maybe...
So Stephen is asking if the company is actually based outside of South Africa. How do you hold them accountable?
Yeah. I think that's a very interesting question, especially within the asset management industry. There's been a lot of backlash where asset managers within South Africa are saying that there's a lot of companies that are coming into South Africa, and what is happening is that then money leaves South Africa. So there's not enough money here to develop the country, to actually invest in the very same infrastructure that, we want to see developing. Because if you are developing infrastructure, what that means is that now you're building schools, and now, you're actually creating employment, and now, you're actually creating growth. So the company grows and people can have, these employments, people can get educated. Mamtra and Sis Charmaine always like to say education is an equalizer. So those are some of the things that sometimes you might miss. But I think what's really important is to really have, a sort of an imperative through targets where you say, if an organization is going to step into South Africa, what is the social responsibility that they actually have to
And
contribute
hold them to
towards
account.
South African? Absolutely. Skills transfer, staying here for longer so that you can actually actualize even individuals that are younger to be able to step into those companies and actually occupy, as opposed to bringing, for example, people from their own countries. I mean, we've seen that happen all the time where countries bring in their own individuals into our country. We are educated here. We can actually be developed, and we must be given the opportunity to be developed. Women need that opportunity to be developed as well. So I think it's really important to put those targets in place for government to really assist in driving those changes. Thank you.
Prof?
Yeah, no, it's
Wrap it up for us.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely important that foreign companies in South Africa, that we hold them accountable. I mean, for example, many European countries and US companies, there are regulations and rules and laws in those countries for these companies to be responsible citizens. But when they go out to our country or to other developing countries and other African countries, they don't do that. So we really have to hold them accountable. To invest when they're here and they take profits out, to invest in our people, in our communities, in our infrastructure, so that when they leave a legacy behind, the sustainable legacy. And for me, that is sustainability. Many of them talk the talk, but they don't walk it. Yeah, they don't walk it. And it's going to be very important, but it will be ordinary citizens must hold them accountable. Civil society organizations must hold them accountable. The media must hold them accountable. And that's going to be very important. Not only government, but government must also hold them accountable. But we need an ecosystem of accountability to hold companies accountable.
Wow, let's wrap up our discussion on the impact of corporate social responsibility. I mean, we have had pearls of wisdom from Prof and Masiabe.
What I also like, is where Prof makes a point about when women rise, we all rise. And I actually love that, Prof, because oftentimes we miss that formula. And the manner in which you've actually explained it in terms of how women are running societies, how we're actually so present in everything that we do. And again, Masiabi, you're also one of our triple threats from IWFSA. You also on the Young Leaders Connect, you're also an alumni, and you also belong to a sister organization. So again, thank you so much for the conversation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we are close to the top of the hour. We are going to be heading to the news. We have our beloved Nkosikona Malingamnisi, who has been updating us with the news. Over to you, Nkosikona.
The 987 Woman Takeover is celebrating 10 years of amazing and groundbreaking moments by honoring dynamic women in South Africa. Download the Mr. D app on Android or App Store now and join thousands who are ordering food from over 12,000 restaurants, shopping for Pick and Pay groceries at in-store prices. Remember, with Mr. D, you can pay with cash, card, or EFT and track your order in real time. Once you've downloaded the app, visit the Power 98.7 website, complete the form, answer